Good afternoon once more from the ICC in Belfast. It's day 3 of IATEFL. And once more, Nikki, Georgia, and myself are going to bring you interviews, news, and videos from the conference for the next hour or so. It's day 3, so everybody has that slightly jaded look of too much tiredness and too much walking around. Apart from Georgia, I think, who seems to be hiding over there. Georgia, I'll come straight to you. What are you doing?
Hello, everyone, and hello, Sean. Now, I am in the conference where everyone is. I am trying to sneak into different sessions so that I can show people from home how beautiful everything is. Now, let me remind you where we are. We are in beautiful Belfast. It is a little bit cloudy, but we don't worry about anything because we have got so many sessions coming up. And yeah, everything is great. So let me show you around. So people are just coming out of their sessions and they are ready to go to the next session. So we had the session here. Lots and lots of people are joining the sessions today. Day 3. It's crazy.
Okay,
So,
let's do an interview and I'll come back to you when the next sessions start and we'll see where we're going on and how we're going. Okay? So we, as usual in the show, we are going to bring you interviews. The first one's coming up. We're going to be speaking to Nikki Hockley today. We're going to find out more about a company called Team Eagle. I think if we're lucky, Maureen McGarvey will be here to talk about scholarships, and we'll meet some. We'll look at some video of scholarship winners. And then towards the end of the show, I promised Lindsay Clanfield will drop in. And I say that because I'm holding on to something of his he needs to make sure he comes here. And then if we're really, really lucky, then we'll finish the show with Jeremy Harmer. And as it is music night at IATEFL, Jeremy is going to bring his guitar along and sing a chorus or two for us to get us in the mood for that. But let's cut straight to our first interview, because over in the studio, it's going to get confusing. Over in the studio, there are the Nickies. So Nikki, who have you got in the studio?
Hello, Sean, and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another live chat. I'm very happy because, not only my namesake, but also someone I respect and admire very much. I'm joined by Nikki Hockley. Hello, Nikki.
Hello, Nikki. Don't get to say that very often.
No, I know, it's funny, isn't it? How are you? I haven't seen you for a long time.
Yes, no, I haven't seen anybody for a long time. I feel like I've been living under a rock for the last couple of years, as we all have.
Exactly.
But great to be here.
Oh, and it's lovely to have you here with us, Nikki. I looked at the programme and it looks like you're going to be super busy this conference. I'd like to talk about what you're going to do. But before we do, I thought it would be nice if we could find out a bit more about you. I obviously know who you are, but in case anyone's not familiar with Nikki and her work, I thought you could start by saying who you are.
Okay, well, my name is Nikki Hockley, and I'm the Director of Pedagogy of a company called TCE, the consultancy. TCE is easier. And we specialize in online teacher training and development. And we work with large educational organizations and ministries of education and so on. And we look especially at the integration of technology into language teaching. In a nutshell, that's what we do.
Well, and it must have been, you must have been in demand over the pandemic, for sure.
Yes, actually, of course, as soon as the school lockdowns happened and there was that sudden rush online, we were incredibly busy. I mean, we've been working, I personally have been teaching 100% online since 1997, so 25 years. And then Gavin Dudney and myself set up TCE in 2003. So we've been doing a lot of teacher training and stuff fully online since then. The pandemic happened and schools suddenly found that they had to, be doing that. So we had a lot of demands on our time, helping people with that very sudden transition at the beginning of the lockdown, so March 2020. And then as that settled in, we've been working with schools looking to have a more principled approach to online and blended. Once they've got the emergency remote teaching piece in place, looking at a kind of longer term strategic view to integrating online and blended.
Well, I think it is now. It's so much more normalised now, isn't it? In the words of Bax, that I think everybody now is kind of using technology, and we don't have to worry so much necessarily about the tech and focus more on the pedagogy itself.
Yeah. No, there's been a real sea change, I think. I mean, both of us have worked in this field for a while, right? And I know teacher training and just talking to teachers, they would often be very stuck on the technology, worried about the tech stuff. So, which button, it's going to break and it's not going to work. That's not really a problem anymore. Everybody's been through the trial by fire and they've seen that actually the technology is the easy bit. It's the the pedagogy, the making your classes online engaging, all that kind of stuff. That's the hard bit. The task design, the course design, that's where the expertise of the teacher really comes to the fore.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you've been very busy with work and you've come to IATEFL and you're also very busy here. Nikki, tell us a bit about what you're doing. I noticed the first thing that you had this morning was a pop-up presentation.
That's right, yeah. We had a little, I've just finished a book with Cambridge University Press.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lovely new series called the Pocket Book Series, lovely and small, short. And a couple of us have written, a couple of people, who've been in the field for a while. We've written these little resource books, and they're very short, kind of double-page pieces of advice. I've written quite a lot of methodology books, as you know. This is actually my 10th. But this time around, what was nice was that we were encouraged to bring a personal voice to the publication. So I was able to say things like, teachers often ask me, or, I've worked with teachers who, or give, very specific examples from my own experience, and also tackle areas that are not so often discussed in methodology. So there's a little chapter, 2 pages, on things like screen time. There's a little section on misinformation and disinformation and how to deal with that when you're working with students, with a couple of ideas and tips and so on. So it was a little different to the methodology books that I've written in the past, and I really enjoyed writing it for that reason.
And it's fantastic. I have looked at it and it's so easy just to kind of dip into, which is, something that I appreciate personally as a student. Okay, so this is the first thing.
Yep.
You also had a presentation earlier on today,
Yes.
which was about using WhatsApp in low resource contexts.
That's right, yeah.
Tell me everything.
Okay, so it was just, everything, half an hour. It was a half an hour talk. Basically, we've been involved, so at TCE, we've been doing a lot of work in the Global South. And the talk specifically described a project we've been involved in South Africa and then in Nigeria. So it's a project that's been running for 2 years in South Africa, still ongoing, and Nigeria for the past year. And it's basically skilling up teachers in those 2 countries to learn how to teach online. But of course, in low resource contexts, it's not like you can use a virtual learning environment like Moodle or video conferencing like Zoom and so on, just because the infrastructure is not there. And of course, and also, the digital skills, need work, but the infrastructure is the main issue. So the kind of mainstream approach that we may have here in Europe is simply not context appropriate. The project that we were involved in was looking at designing teacher training for teachers, for state school teachers, primary and secondary, teachers of English, maths and science, looking at designing a teacher training course that was context appropriate. And as part of that, helping them to learn to deliver real-time lessons, so English lessons, math, science lessons, real-time 45 minutes through WhatsApp. So, from 9 to 9:45, and then using only voice notes and text, and the students, of course, interacting, because it's a language class or a maths class or a science class, interacting in the WhatsApp group, also using text and image and voice notes, and not using video. Because, of course, the issue with video in a platform like WhatsApp is that it's very, the data demands are high, so it's not context appropriate. So in a nutshell, the project looks at trying to design training courses and then, language learning lessons, let's say, through technologies that are appropriate and already very widespread in the context.
So everybody in that context had a mobile. Was it on the phone or was it on the computer?
Right. So that's
device?
A good question, actually, because, of course, we used a cascade training model. So we had our TCE trainers and then we had lead trainers who were then delivering the same course to teachers then delivering the lessons to the students. Okay, so we got those 4 levels. It's difficult to get your head around. If you are the trainer or the teacher delivering the WhatsApp lesson to your students, so tiers 3 and 4, actually trying to put long pieces of text into WhatsApp is quite time consuming in terms of typing. So we suggest that teachers and the lead trainers above them, when they're doing the demo lessons, that they use WhatsApp for desktop, because it's very easy to copy and paste from a lesson plan. We provided demo lesson plans, or your own lesson plan. You can copy and paste text very quickly and easily into WhatsApp. If you're having to, type stuff in, it can be very, very slow. So that keeps the pace going and makes sure that the teacher is on top of everything, can see what students are replying, can reply to the replies, It's kind of difficult to explain. You need to sort of experience to see how it works, but it does work. We've seen that.
Well, but this is fantastic. So training was delivered using WhatsApp, and the participants felt that they'd benefited from the experience, and the trainers were also satisfied.
Right. The training was delivered partly through WhatsApp, particularly through the demo lessons and also for teacher reflection and so on. But we also had a web page with self-study materials. It's a 6-module course over 6 weeks. So there's the self-study stuff. That was also especially designed for low resource context. So icons rather than pictures, audio, no video, audio made with local accents, materials that were from the Nigerian and South African teaching curricula so that they were context appropriate. But all of that sort of the assets, if you like, the assets of the course were deliberately low bandwidth. I mean, they demand much.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask, did they have access to Wi-Fi or were they running off their own data?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. You can see that you work in technology. What happens actually in these contexts, and there's research into this, is that what teachers will do to try not to spend their mobile data, because most people, teachers, students, everybody will have a mobile phone rather than a laptop, right? So teachers are using mobile phones to access the course content. What they tend to do is find Wi-Fi, wherever that may be, and then quickly use that Wi-Fi to download stuff. So the way we designed the course was we had all of the assets on a website, a low bandwidth website, but we also had downloadable PDF versions of all of that content, slightly adapted so that it kind of worked on a PDF rather than an interactive, H5P type approach in the online materials. And we found that people did do that. They'd go to wherever you can, let's say Starbucks as a kind of a stereotypical example, get the Wi-Fi, download a couple of modules, and then they could study in their own time without using their own mobile data, because yes, that is a cost and a consideration. In this particular project, the British Council and the FCDO were the funders, and they were actually providing data to the teachers and to the trainers, and it's a big deal. I mean, it's a massive barrier. So it's an important piece in this kind of project.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is, it's not life-changing, maybe is a bit of a strong word, but maybe it is life-changing, because if you don't have the resources like the virtual learning environment that you can use, for the synchronous, asynchronous lessons, this is something that people do have, and training can be delivered this way. I remember watching a talk by you, Nikki, quite a few years ago, and you'd run an online course, and you were ever so surprised that one learner had actually done it all on his phone.
That was years ago. You're right. Oh, you've got a fantastic memory.
Yeah,
it was like 2005.
Exactly.
She'd done it on Nokia.
Exactly. So it's kind of the potential's always been there,
Yeah.
so you were just harnessing it.
Yeah.
Well,
we've gone back to, of course, those are the kinds of phones that we were using in the project, the old Nokias, where you have to kind of tap 3 times for the D.
Yes.
One of those.
So it wasn't smartphones.
No. So feature phones are what are most common in the context. Internet-enabled feature phones, and almost all of them have WhatsApp, because that's the most popular platform in all of sub-Saharan Africa. Yeah. So
it's incredible, and they were able to read it on the screen.
Yes, with difficulty, I guess it's practice.
But you can do,
absolutely. In the live lesson, you're seeing stuff come up. Yeah.
I was wondering if there was any advice that you could give somebody who was thinking, okay, we don't have the resources, maybe I could try something like this. What would you say to them? How could they start?
Yes, the other ways using WhatsApp to deliver a live lesson does require the kind of lesson planning and the thinking through and the classroom management, especially if you're working with a group of 40 students, right, in a class, in the kind of, in the WhatsApp space with you. That's the kind of the what you would aim for. An easy way to start is to use WhatsApp, for example, for students to share homework. And I know there are many, many, many teachers who've been doing this for years. That's an easy start. And of course, the other great potential is to use it to liaise with parents, because as you know, there's lots of research into how the homeschool connection makes a huge difference to students' achievements in school. If there is support from the home, it makes a huge difference. And WhatsApp is a great way for the teacher to be able to reach the parents and share work that the students have done, and just keep the parents abreast of what's happening. Or here's the song that we've been doing in class, I'm sending it to you so you can play it with your kids at night. That kind of thing, very simple and very easy. So that's another great way to use WhatsApp.
Do we have to disclose our phone numbers if we're using WhatsApp. Would you advise maybe somebody work might buy them a work phone so that they don't have to use their personal number? Or?
Yes, that's true. You can have people join your WhatsApp group through a link.
Right,
so that you don't have to have everybody in your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Also, of course, in this project, for example, working with primary and secondary school learners don't have their own phones, and often in the contexts that we were working in, there might be one phone in the family, which is owned by a parent.
Mm-hmm.
So the time as well of sessions, when do the kids have access to the phones, is another big consideration. Also, we found actually working with the teachers with WhatsApp that they often, their names are not as their WhatsApp names. They might have a nickname, which has got nothing to do with their real name. So one of the things that we would also do, we would always do in the live WhatsApp lessons is a couple of routines. So, hello, everybody, an hour beforehand, we're starting in an hour, we're starting now. An hour later, here's a reminder of the class rules. I've skipped one out. Which one is it? Those kinds of little routines. And then, all right, everybody, please just type your name to take the register. It's such a simple thing, but you don't always know who's in your class if you're looking at the WhatsApp names.
Completely and utterly. And now that you've just said it, it's kind of like, why didn't I think of that? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, but I think this is great research, and it's something that we're all using. So yes, why not harness that and use it in teacher education?
It's been a lot of fun. It's been a real privilege actually working with these teachers and these lead trainers. I mean, they are so resourceful and motivated and interested and keen to try stuff out. It's just been wonderful. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good stuff, Nikki. And something else you're doing is a debate very shortly, actually.
That's right.
It's the ELTJ, so the ELT Journal debate. What's the motion?
The motion is online teaching is both necessary and effective. You can imagine which side I'm talking for, right? I'm proposing the motion, and then the way the debate works is that you have a person who counters the motion, who speaks against the motion, and that's Graham Hall, who I've known for many years, and the debate is a lot of fun, actually. Yeah.
I think Graham might be a bit worried at this point. All the best, Graham, if you're watching. Oh, lovely. Okay, just two short questions maybe to finish. Where do you see the future of technology going in education?
Yeah, it's been an interesting time. I think, with the COVID lockdowns and practically everybody moving into online teaching of some description, I think that has become normalized to a certain extent. At least people no longer say, oh, it's just impossible, can't be done. Because it can be done. It can be done extremely well. It can be done maybe with more difficulty, but it can be done. And most institutions, I think, and teachers are now looking at the longer term, which is a more strategic approach to online and blended. Institutions are realizing that a blended approach, online was great, so is face-to-face in-person teaching. We don't have to get rid of that, but we can increase our course offering by having, well thought out, robust, well-planned blended offerings. And I've had schools say to me that they actually have more clients than they had. Private language schools have more clients than they had before the pandemic, because they've now embedded blended and online options into their offerings. And I think that's going to become increasingly mainstream. Yeah, I think we've passed the sort of tipping point.
Yeah, absolutely.
With online and blended, which is great.
Okay, very final question. One word to describe your IATEFL experience this year.
Fun.
Excellent. Nikki, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to Nikki. Nikki there, thanks a lot. And I'm really glad that actually Maureen McGarvey's now walked into the studio as well. Otherwise, we'd have been stuck with the LT SIG triumvirate again, and that I got told off yet again for gravitating towards the one SIG. But we've got LAMSIG in the room. It's still LAMSIG? Scholarship Committee. But you must be as LAMSIG. You must be in that SIG. Yeah. Yes, there you go. So we're coming up, as you now hear, we've got Maureen coming up very shortly. Before that, we're going to find out more about Team Eagle. And actually, I've got Georgie sat over there, so I should go to Georgie sat on the roving camera. Right?
Hi, Sean.
Go on, tell me where you are.
Right, so I am where the action happens. We are ready to sneak in. I need to be a little bit more quiet because sessions have already started. But can I share something with you?
Yeah, go on in.
I love, since I started coming to IATEFL, I love keeping the programs. And this year's program is a beauty. But can I also show, like at the back of the program, there is your own schedule. So after you decide which sections you want to attend, you can just write your sessions here and so beautiful and organized. I'm definitely keeping this program. Now, come to one of the sessions with me, but promise you'll be quiet. All of you at home, okay? Okay, so let's go. Let's go. And I'm just gonna let you in for a little bit. I hope you enjoy the experience.
So while she's opening the door, just point out she's on the top floor of the ICC, where there are lots of session rooms. This is the green floor. You can see that there a list of all the sessions in all the rooms, and the current wave of session started at 3:15, I think. Go on then, go for it. Let's see if you get told off. So I think you've gone into the TV special interest group, yeah?
And so we all know continuing professional development is a very important thing. And then the lifelong learning, the temporal dimension is important because it's long. So as we go on our way, we grow, and then we all want to do it again and again and more of it. And then this is the most often quoted definition, conceptualization of continuing professional development by Dixit and Padwad. Unfortunately, Krishna Dixit couldn't come to this conference. I was very much looking.
So that was a taste. And
that was Sissy. Go into one more. It's all the six today. It's the BSIG room. Okay. So when they say it's the BSIG room and the TDSIG room, they have their showcases. So our showcases where they've chosen the sessions, and this room is all about them today. Oh, there we are into BSIG.
It can be really hard for an individual to understand them deeply. So we're here to talk about the new normal, the changes in BE. And I have to say that things indeed have changed. But before we continue, let me tell you that I'm used to working with very stressed students. I work with CEOs.
She's used to working with very stressed students. I'm used to working with very stressed co-presenters.
Okay. One more for the people.
Be quick. Maureen's waiting for you.
Okay. Right.
So for Harold, thank you very much for your kind words. Hi, Paula there on YouTube. Hi, Ale from Sarajevo. Hi, Lat from Senegal.
They come across another word. They come across the word phone. Oh, and they recognize two letters make down one sound. So it is phone, photograph, phone.
Good afternoon, Hada. Nice to see you joining us again
and
in the stream.
What's the second element?
Phone. So we're all going to.
Okay.
I didn't see what was that. That must have been a pronunciation thing or something.
So that was about pronunciation
and
what helps students crack the pronunciation code.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you so much for that insight. We'll probably send you out later on again, but please do come back to base. Hi, Hannah. For joining us from Lithuania. We're getting a nice worldwide audience for the moment. Let me take Georgia out so she could run back to us. So good afternoon for those of you just joining the live stream. This is day 3 from IATEFL. Many of you are rejoining us, but if you're joining the stream for the first time today, we're here for about an hour and a half, and we're trying to give you a taste of what IATEFL, the conference, is like. This is the first IATEFL conference in a couple of years. We're in day 3 in Belfast. What you can see, where we are is called the boardroom, and it is quite a dull place, but we're having fun within the room itself. And as you will know, it's the interview studio. So we will go and find out now about one of our sponsors who are keen to talk to us and tell us more. When I say one of our sponsors at the conference. So we'll go over to Uma and Nikki to find out more about our sponsors. And then after that, we're going to talk scholarships with the Maureen Mugabe. So back to Nikki, still sat in that chair. Nikki, who have you got over there?
Yeah. So hello, welcome back. So this time next to me, I've got lovely Uma. And Uma, welcome to the studio.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's lovely to have you. It's lovely to be here.
You're more than welcome. You're going to talk to us about Teen Eagle.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so this is fascinating. I want to know everything. So let me start by asking, What is Teen Eagle? What's the purpose and what's the philosophy behind it?
Right. So Teen Eagle started off as an international English language competition, but really quickly on, we realized there were two big problems in the industry of English competitions in general. The first is that a lot of them focused on rote memorization. And the second is that there was no real support given to educators and students when actually preparing for that competition. So we decided to go a bit differently than the standard. And now we're focusing on English language skills. So instead of going directly for language, we're going for internalizing language skills and having students compete in soft skills instead. And on top of that, we're taking the entire academic year as our preparatory time. We're doing Instagram lives, we're doing Zoom webinars, we're going one-on-one with the educators, all of this to try and create this entire process of learning up to our main competitions, our online and our global rounds, so that more people can actually feel confident when they compete, but also have longer lasting skills as a result from competing.
Okay, so for anyone who's not familiar with English competitions,
Right.
This is students who get together from different schools, different cities, maybe even different countries.
Oh, absolutely. We're completely international. So right now, our online competition is completely remote as well. It's 100% digital, and we're open to every country in the globe. So we also make that difference between our native and non-native students. So they're graded a little bit differently, of course, but we really try and be as open and as inclusive as possible. So for this competition, it's really not whether you're able to explain the second conditional, which is, often a complaint these students have, how am I supposed to do that? But we want you to see if you can use it in action, in content-based tasks, and in, extended discourse.
Okay. And who can compete in the competition?
So this year we decided to go by grades, and it's grades 5 to 12. But next year we're planning on expanding and focusing on age categories instead. So we're almost done with our academic year as well. So next year we'll be going from ages 8 to 18. And in the future, we're also planning on perhaps going even higher and trying to enroll university students in that as well.
Okay. And you mentioned that you have like an online and global competitions.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
All right. So our online rounds are considered our qualifier rounds.
Okay.
Basically, students interact with certain resources we've listed on our website, and then they do a multiple choice quiz online to kind of test their knowledge. Now, I've mentioned that we're avoiding rote memorization, and this is one of the ways we do it by limiting our resources severely. This year, it's one book and one film. That's it. That means that we're really able to focus on the questions we ask as different levels of cognition and critical thinking. So that basic level is just comprehension, what's going on. But the level higher is why or how. And the highest level is this metalinguistic knowledge. And that way we can really test a lot of students at the same time, but in a way that really shows their complete mastery of that resource. So that's our online rounds, and they happen several times a year because students can win discounts of up to 100% on our online rounds for the global finals. And that's an in-person 8-day-long event hosted in London over the summer, which is quite different than the online round.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely. And because of that, the competition itself is structured very differently. For one, we have 4 competitive categories instead of 1. Our knowledge quiz is the same as our online round, but again, we're focusing on subtext and intention. Our writing challenge focuses on coherent argumentation, but placing it down on paper in a way that makes sense, that we can trace your sources. Persuasive speaking, you have very little time to prepare and 2 minutes to convince us. That's it. And when it comes down to it, the spelling bee is our last mandatory competition, which often people say, well, that's a bit different from the rest of the things you're pitching. But our idea is by providing these word lists for students to study, they can then incorporate those word lists into the other 3 forms of competition, so they feel more prepared and have the vocabulary to use. So on top of that, we have 2 optional categories. So for the students that are a bit more creative, we have our short film competition and our talent show. But again, like I've mentioned, this really isn't just about competing. We think of competition as a means to an end. So we're also giving a couple hours of language classes focused on communicative competence, certified language teachers who are really going over fluency, how you can incorporate things in a cohesive and constructive manner. Let's work on your productive language skills in a hands-on environment. But on top of that, language isn't just grammar or vocabulary, right? If it was, our jobs would be a lot easier as teachers, but it's messy. It has a history and a culture. So we're incorporating visits to places of historical and cultural significance. And all on top of that, this is the real crucial part, they're kids, they're teenagers. So we really have to remember that and give them time in the evening, not just to rest, but to have fun activities planned, to meet other students, but also to internalize the things that they've learned over that day and figure out how to incorporate them in the next. So it's a whole process. We're considering it like the most immersive language learning experience. But again, because we're focusing on the internalization and automation of those language skills, these students don't even realize how hard they're working for it until they leave, and they feel so much more confident in those skills.
So this is a whole year-long process that culminates in 8 days in London.
Absolutely. So the online round this year, I think we had 3 or 4 rounds. And the idea is we try and make those rounds as accessible as possible for the students as well. So because you can win discounts, we also let students repeat their online rounds if they'd like. And whatever they do best, that round they do best, that's the score we take. Because yes, we do have to consider testing and assessment as like a valuable form and part of education, but there's no reason to limit it. Sometimes students will have difficulties doing one quiz, or maybe they just are unfamiliar with the structure. We need to let students have as many opportunities as possible to perform the best they can. So that's that idea of taking the entire academic year and not just the one day of competition.
And can I go back to the word discount that you used?
Yes.
Tell me more about these discounts and what do they mean, and can you apply them just to Teen Eagle, or is it universities, or tell me everything?
Great question. So for our online rounds, our discounts are really focused for the global finals. And again, it really depends on how many students compete in a category or country, but we go up to 100% if there's enough students. However, for the global finals, we do it a bit differently. And again, we don't want to be this idea of, you come, you compete, and you leave, and that's all. We really want to be something that we can reach out to, a platform for students. So all of our participants can get either 25% off their first year of tuition at Brooke House College, which is a preparatory college that has accredited this competition, or they can get 10% off their first year of tuition at one of our partnered universities in England. Right now, we're partnered with about 50 universities. We're hoping to double that number. But the idea really is that by competing, you're learning. It's not about being the best. It's about improving who you are and being your best self. And that's why we want to be a stepping stone for students to continue their education. And perhaps, in the future, they can reach out back to us and we can keep working with them as co-workers, as adults.
Okay, so you've mentioned quite a lot about the benefits for the students of joining Teen Eagle. What's the benefit to the educator?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think that's really overlooked, isn't it, in a lot of competitions? Because a lot of the times they say, well, your students are going to be motivated, and that's it. So what we try and do, for one, I think a lot of educators find it quite novel to have such an intimate connection with the competition itself, because like I've mentioned, we're constantly having these webinars and Zooms. We do similar things with educators. We're trying to figure out how they can use our resources in their classrooms, on a daily basis. Or somebody comes up to us and asks, my kids really want a writing challenge online. Is that something you're interested in? We go, we are now. And on top of that, in our global finals, we're actually working right now on getting certified training events for the supervisors that come with their students. So while their students are doing competitions or going up to Buckingham Palace, the educators are staying and actually incorporating their own kind of academic journey and giving their 2 cents on what they want the competition to become in the future. So I really think what it comes down to educators is the fact that it's such a symbiotic relationship. And we're really, really trying not to make it a one-sided thing. We want to give just as much as we're getting,
Okay. And if people are interested in joining this and doing this, how can they go about it?
Well, the first thing would be to see on our website. So that's you can find us after Googling Teen Eagle, or you can go on our social media. We have YouTube and Instagram and kind of see what it's like. For educators, it's the same thing, but it's always best to reach out and contact us, either over social media or website or the emails that you can find there, and really just ask. We offer webinars of different styles. So we can offer webinars to a single educator or a group of educators or all of their students. And that's kind of that binary tree system we tend to follow when advertising it. But really, it's so almost demeaning in some cases to just have everything on a blank piece of paper. We're really focusing on these kind of interpersonal relationships. So if anyone's interested, I'd really tell them to reach out to us, say, I'm interested, and we'll say, okay, let's see what we can do about it.
And just to reiterate, this is for native speakers of English and non-native.
Yes. So it's open to everything. And what we do is we are never going to pit a non-native speaker against the native speaker, because we're trying to take that internal fluency into consideration. But again, we're not really focusing so much on accuracy. We're focusing on how these students use the language. So for example, in our persuasive speaking challenge, which is one of my favorites personally, obviously we're going to be looking for a wide range of tenses, of vocabulary, but we're also focusing on the way that these ideas are organized, on the resources they use to back themselves up, even on the way that they use space and the environment around them. So these are ways that we kind of level the playing ground to make sure any student can compete without feeling like they're indeterminately outranked right from the very start, which unfortunately is a very, very real issue that happens in a lot of competitions nowadays.
Okay, Uma, I do have one question. What exactly is your job?
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair question, right? So I'm one of the content developers, one of the primary content developers. That means that one day I can be writing text for a website, and the other day I'll be focusing on grading rubrics. Right now, a lot of my job is really focused towards our global finals event, which this summer is from the 31st of July to the 7th of August. So we're really amping up that kind of responsibility right now and making sure that everything actually suits. Are all of our questions, assessing critical thinking skills or cognitive development skills? Are all of our themes, working with their resources? But when it comes down to it, it is a, relatively young competition. So I'm also whatever they need me to be. I'm here today, I'm presenting at this conference. I have a pop-up presentation after this as well. But I think that's kind of what I love about it so much. I'm a very dusty academic at heart. Let's just get something straight here. My idea of a good time is staying home and reading research papers. But this is a way to take all of that kind of educational theory and put it into practice. And, I'm speaking with so many people, and when they say, oh, I think this could be good, it's my job to incorporate that into whatever we already have. And it's this beautiful amalgamation of, ideas that you can kind of see growing in front of your eyes.
And what makes Teen Eagle different from the other English competitions that people might be familiar with?
Well, when it goes back to it, I think that's what I mentioned at the beginning. So we have this very, very distinct bias against rote memorization. And that's the thing. It's really easy to make a competition on rote memorization and call it an English competition. So we're putting so much more effort into actually distinguishing ourselves on that level, on our resources, on the questions we make, and so on and so forth. But I also think the fact is we're very accessible. And sometimes competitions, they're not accessible at all. They might have, an email, and then you get, a really dry reply, or your educator's trying to find information, but they're just getting a chat box. We're really, really trying to use technology and use these resources and use our relationships all over the world, so that no matter how you're talking to us, you're talking to a real person, and we're really trying to take that into consideration.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Uma. If there's anything that you think people at home might need to know if they're interested.
People at home, I think it really comes down to the whole philosophy that we come back to, because we are an English language skills competition, but the philosophy what we uphold is so universal. And this is the idea of focusing on the journey of something. It's not just the end result that you take into consideration. It's what you do to get to that end result. And when you take that philosophy and you start to apply it to your daily life, it's so incredible to see how much more rewarding everything is. So I tell people to, really stop and enjoy that journey and process. But also, if they see that this has some potential, or they could use it for their students as an educational partner, if they have an idea of how to expand, I'd really invite them to reach out to us and take that risk, Let's see what we can do together.
Okay, so this is Teen Eagle.
Yes, yeah? Teen Eagle. So,
lovely.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, if you're interested, Teen Eagle, and you can find out more from Uma. Uma, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon and telling us about Teen Eagle.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here. I've loved it so far.
Pleasure.
If you're in the conference, then you can visit the Teen Eagle stand. It's in the exhibition. And I think Uma just said she's having a pop-up presentation very shortly. And if you haven't found that, then it's at the back of the exhibition hall. You can go and see the pop-up stand where you get little mini presentations. And of course, if you're not at a conference and you've just watched this, then go find their website and have a look at the competitions there. And we thank them very much for joining us today. So let's change focus now, as we do in these shows, and start to think about scholarship. We've got a bit of feedback coming in from Facebook. So Ali thinks you're great. So there you go. And while I'm looking at the comments, hello to Jen in Canada, London, Ontario, and hello to Gunay in Azerbaijan. We really are a global audience today. So we're going to change focus for the next 15-20 minutes and consider the IATEFL scholarships. And very shortly, we'll be talking to the person who's had the really hard job for years, volunteering to make sure those scholarships run and are awarded properly, in the great Maureen McGarvey. But first, let's go to Georgia in a video, because Georgia did find out some scholarship trivia. So here's your IATEFL historical trivia question for today.
Hi, Georgia here with more IATEFL conference trivia. One of IATEFL's goals is to widen access to the annual conference by setting up grants and scholarships to allow more people to be included and to share their expertise. Do you know when the first IATEFL scholarship was awarded? It was in 1991 in memory of Ray Tang.
So I'm Imad. I'm from Egypt originally, but I live in Preston. I work for the University of Central Lancashire as a research and study skills tutor, but I also teach English for academic purposes. Today has been really nice. I've attended several sessions about speaking, how to encourage students to speak and to get rid of their anxiety. We've also looked at material design, and my last session was with Sophia, my favorite lecturer, and we talked about using technology in classroom. So it was really, really good, as usual. Yeah. Of course, it's a busy conference, but it's good to see everyone, especially after like almost 2 years now, not seeing people, but it's great to see people in person.
Okay, so my name is Umar Ashfaq, and I'm from King Saud University in Riyadh, and currently I'm teaching students on the foundation year, covering mainly ELT, so covering mainly business students, and also students on medical and also law as well.
And what have you seen in the career fair so far?
Yeah, I mean, since the pandemic, I've had to adapt to teaching online and also using a lot of different tools, using a lot of creativity, and trying to get the students to do a lot of team building exercises, especially online.
And so we're ready now to go over to talk to Maureen live. We'll talk to Maureen, and then we'll listen to some of this year's scholarship winners. I know Georgia will introduce Maureen, but it's always my pleasure to have her here. We've worked together for many years. She's been a great friend and mentor and everything. And I'm saying that because she might be slightly angry because I ditched her quiz team last night in favor of video editing. So I'm trying to get into her good books again. So Georgia, over to you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm really happy because today we have got Maureen McGarvey. And thank you, Maureen, for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
You are our scholarship committee chair.
That's right.
So what is your role?
Well, we're a committee of 5 and then myself as chair. And the role of the committee is to manage the IATEFL scholarship scheme. And this work continues throughout the whole year. when we finish conference here, we're already a third of the way through our work for conference next year. And so our role is to try and attract more scholarships so we can get more winners to conference. The aim of our committee really is to support the scholarship scheme and attract more sponsors who also support the scholarship scheme. And our sponsors are our greatest resource, really, because without them, we couldn't have any winners. So the sponsors are very important. And then to go through the process of advertising the scholarships, getting the applications in, getting all the applications read by a number of different reading panels, which are supported by committee members, selecting the winners, informing the winners, and supporting the winners and the sponsors until we have the best bit of conference for me, which is the scholarship winners gathering on the first evening of conference, when we get all our winners and sponsors in a room together. You know, and I can look at them and say, you did it, you know, and I always cry because I'm always so emotioned to be in the same room with them. So it's a year-long process, and as chair, I suppose I manage that process in association with IATEFL head office and my designated admin superstar.
Wow, it must have been very busy then, a very busy year.
It has been a busy year. We had, like everybody's saying, we had 2 years of COVID, and that changed the scholarship landscape, if you like, quite dramatically, because we didn't have the conference, and then we had the online conference, but we still had scholarships, and we still had winners that attended and spoke at the online conference. We had to decide how to manage that whole scheme. And for this 55th conference, I think the excitement has really been running high because the winners know they're actually going to get to come here. And we've been very much away from this kind of face-to-face scholarship community and contact and excitement. So the excitement level's been high, Georgia.
And to be honest, I've witnessed that this morning when I was interviewing the scholarship winners, and their energy was incredible. They were so excited and they were sharing their stories with us. Yeah. So in the history of the IATEFL scholarships, what have you learned about our winners?
They're all amazing. And all our applicants are amazing as well. I mean, this is the thing, is we have so many applicants who work in such a diverse range of contexts, doing such astonishing work, and how they've had to adapt their teaching practices and approaches in the past 2 years, for example, is nothing short of staggering, I think. And I say to all our winners, when we have our winners gathering, every single year, scholarship winners say to me, I never thought I would win. But if you don't apply, you know, you don't win. And I've learned that they are doing remarkable work, that they are creative, they're committed and incredibly enthusiastic and energetic. And I was saying to another winner yesterday that for scholarship winners, they often feel, oh, I'm coming to conference and thank you so much, and you've given me this great opportunity. But I don't think winners perhaps fully understand the opportunity they give to conference, because we learn so much from them. The talks I go to from winners are talking about things that are often way beyond my sphere of experience and knowledge, and to hear them speak about the challenges in their teaching and what they're doing and how they're overcoming it. We learn so much from our winners. It's very much a two-way street, I think.
So how can someone apply for a scholarship?
Yeah, well, as I say, you have to be in it to win it. So if you don't apply, you won't win. And applications for Harrogate 2023 are actually open now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you can go to the IATEFL website, go to the scholarships page, and then you'll see we have 28 awards at the moment. So there are 28 different scholarships. And if you want to apply, and I hope you do want to apply, it's important to read the text carefully, because each scholarship has different requirements. Some scholarships are offered by IATEFL SIGs, the special interest groups. So obviously they will be related to, for example, pronunciation SIG or teacher training education SIG. So you need to look very carefully at what you need to do to apply, okay? And get your application in, take time, get someone else perhaps to proofread it for you and check it with you, and think about what it is you want to do with this opportunity. A lot of the scholarships require you to present at conference or present at the PCE. But IATEFL has a mentor scheme, so if you're a first-time speaker, you'll get that support. But it's to look at what the scholarships are. Some have geographical requirements, so only will be open to applicants from certain geographical locations. Some are for very specific topics, business English, pronunciation, creativity. So there are lots of different categories, but I think it's really push yourself to do it, think, yes, I can do it. We've had, I think, Fekete Gergu, one of our winners, yesterday when I was watching him on the live stream, said that he'd applied twice, and there's another winner who'd applied 6 times. This was the 6th time of application, and she won that scholarship. So it's the main thing to do about applying for scholarships, Georgia, is apply for the scholarship.
Absolutely. Now that we have you here, my question is, what is the selection process like for you?
Okay, the selection process is quite complex. Each scholarship is read by a reading panel, either a reading panel chosen by the sponsors. So, for example, if it's a special interest group scholarship, members of the special interest group will read and select. If it's a scholarship offered by IATEFL, the association, of which there are 5, we have volunteer readers, and God bless them, who I put in reading panels, and each panel is supported by a scholarship committee member to arrive at the decision. If it's a commercial scholarship from a publisher, for example, they have their reading team supported by scholarship committee, and we also have some awards, or we've had some awards and still do, that are offered by private individuals who wish to remain anonymous, and they read with support of the chair.
I see. And how long does it take for the scholarship winners to be announced?
Well, we have a range. It can range from 1,000 to 3,000 applications. Wow. To read in quite a short time, and the application reading often happens in the summer, when people are either extremely busy or on a beach. So it is a very concentrated experience, but we aim to get the reading done from the closing date of application to decision within 4 to 6 weeks. And then we let the successful applicants know, and once we receive their confirmation, then we can let everybody else know, and then we can start the joyful process of putting winner and sponsor together and supporting them in their journey to get to conference.
Lovely. Now, Maureen, I found out today that you're the outgoing chair.
I am indeed, yes.
So what's next for you?
Well, I hope to continue my relationship with IATEFL, because it's been a very long one. It's lasted longer than most other relationships I've had, actually. And I would like to continue my relationship with IATEFL, and in this following year, part of my role will be to support the new incoming chair once that person is identified and selected, because there's a lot of complex systems and processes to get your head around with scholarships. So if you have a new chair, they need the support of the outgoing chair, but we have an extremely experienced committee as well that will be supporting the incoming chair in the process, and they're going to have such a good time.
I can imagine, yes. So now that you are running the scholarships, have you had the chance to enjoy some of the conference?
Yes, I've been quite lucky, actually, although I do think if I was a person with a Fitbit and I was counting my steps in this centre, I think I'd be up to about 50,000 a day. I have managed to get to some extremely interesting talks, some of which have been by our scholarship winners. Of course, it's always lovely to hear them. And I think, like everybody who's coming back to a face-to-face conference after so long, Georgia, it's the joy of seeing people that you haven't seen for more than 2 years, and meeting the scholarship winners of 2022 that I've never met before, and attending some inspiring talks, having interesting conversations, learning more from our delegates and having a very nice social time as well.
This is true. Most of the people that we've spoken to today and over the past 3 days, there seems to be the same idea that we are so happy to be back in person and we get to connect with other people.
That's right. That's right. And of course, we can do that online, and the virtual conference was a great success in that it kept the dialogue open and it made it more accessible almost for a lot of membership. But I think a lot of people are feeling, yes, we're connecting in another way now as well.
Maureen, before we go, can I give you a challenge?
Okay.
It's an easy one.
It's not a physical one.
No. I mean, you have done 15,000 steps.
That's right. That's
anyway.
another challenge. Yeah.
And anyone at home or anyone who's in IATEFL, if they have got a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, check your steps. I think that we're running around so much, so it's crazy. No, the challenge is very easy. Can you describe IATEFL in 3 words?
It's my tribe.
Oh, that's lovely. You see, this is very interesting. I was talking yesterday with, oh my goodness, I forgot. So I was talking with one of our presenters yesterday, and he mentioned that IATEFL is a tribe. It's a village.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, and this excites me. This excites me so much because it really feels like a small world where we know each other in a way.
Yeah. And I think what makes that feeling really strong, Georgia, is that we don't know each other, but we do know what each other is doing. And when you get together with people who have the same interests as you, or the same passion, or maybe you've been the one teacher in your school who's interested in something and nobody else is, and you feel a bit isolated, and you can come to something like this and you think, oh my God, it's not only me, so you do feel that, oh, thank goodness I'm with other people who can get really excited about pragmatics.
Absolutely.
For example, yeah.
Definitely. Well, Maureen, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching it. Oh, thank you, Sean.
Just to refresh your memory, Georgia, I think it was Chaz that described it as village. But I do like Maureen's. I'm now feeling embarrassed because my step count is only 5,000 steps at the moment for today. So clearly after the show, I'm going to have to do some more. Although you might have guessed, I do stand up and pace around for the whole show, so maybe I can artificially inflate it. Maureen referred to a number of the scholarship winners there. I think it was Karen from Brazil that was the six-time person, and there will be an interview with her later on. If you've noticed, after the live show is finished, we'd start to put out interviews. So we have interviewed. There was one went out last night. We interviewed Karen this morning, and that will go. She will tell you of the joy of winning on the 6th attempt for it, and the moral of never giving up and try again. And also, I think Dolon from India is going to go up as an interview later on. So just to reiterate what Maureen said, read the rules. If you want to get involved, the applications, the process is already underway to a sense. So have a look at where they are. And just to, if you're still not convinced that applying for a scholarship is a good idea, here is a short video we made earlier this morning with a group of the scholarship winners. So have a look at this and just look at the joy on all of their faces for being at IATEFL.
Hello, IATEFL. We are really happy to have with us today our scholarship winners. Oh, wonderful. So let's see who is who. Let's start from you. So your name and your country and your scholarship, please.
Hi, I'm Rachel Tsarteri. I'm from Greece, and my scholarship was Gil Sturridge's First-Time Speaker Scholarship.
Wonderful.
Hello, I'm Tanishta. I'm from India, and I have received the Musical Grants Scholarship.
Lovely.
Hello, I'm Fatma Tamimi. I'm from Tunisia, and I won the African Scholarship.
Hi, my name is Hannah, originally from South Korea, staying in Australia. I am the winner of TOEFL program scholarship.
Lovely, thank you.
Hi, I'm Helen. I'm originally from Canada, but I live in the UK, and I am the winner of the TD SIG Michael Berman Scholarship.
Right, my name is Tamara Bustos. I'm from Argentina, from Rosario. I won the Latin American scholarship.
Fantastic.
Hi, my name is Ilana Theka. I'm from Ukraine, and I'm pleased and honored to be a Macmillan Education Scholarship winner.
And our gentleman.
Last but not least, I assume. Okay, so my name is Laszlo. I come from Hungary, and I've won the Creativity Grant Scholarship.
Wonderful. How has the IATEFL experience been for you so far?
Super great. Great, fantastic, overwhelming.
Yeah. But in a good way.
In a good way. Yeah.
How many sessions would you say have you attended so far?
Oh my God. Way too many.
Yeah, way too many to remember right now.
Yes. 15 probably. 20, yeah, 15.
Wow.
15 and 20.
I didn't even count, to be honest.
No.
Oh, that's another. Oh, that's another. Oh, that's another.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for the people who are watching from home, how can people apply for the scholarship and what advice would you give them? Let's start with our gentleman.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think most important is what we also talked about in the scholarship meeting, that kind of believe in yourself, because unless you try and unless you submit a proposal, you will never get a scholarship, and sometimes you might try more times, but then eventually you can never know if your proposal is good enough. And I think every single thought that is original is good enough anyway, so why don't you just give it a shot and try?
Well, it is really a very wonderful experience and a very enriching event. So I advise all the Tunisian English teachers to apply as soon as possible.
Fantastic. Yeah. And if I can ask you to describe IATEFL in 3 words, what would those words be?
Networking and amazing and exhausting, but in a good way.
Overwhelming. Fabulous. And new. New to me.
I wasn't prepared for this. You didn't tell us that. But she said networking, so I'm going to say friendship because I've made new friends, and development because you can give your first talk and learn a lot, and parties because it is a big party.
Yeah, well, I think it has to do a lot about sharing and meeting new friends, as they have already said. And it's a great opportunity to spend every day, because it's a whole day, with gorgeous people from everywhere in the world.
Well, we hope to see you again in the future. Thank you very much for applying. Thank you very much for weighing in, for being so energetic. And a big round of applause for our scholars.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, here's another open-ended question to get you thinking. If you could cook any meal for a dinner party, what would it be? Leave your answers in the comment section below.
People have talked about IATEFL as being a place where everybody's kind of meeting each other again after so many years. And this is very true of the next guest, whom is, I would say, a good friend and a colleague, because we've been making a podcast together for Lord knows how many years these days, amongst other things. I'm someone who we kind of WhatsApp about geeky things to, but it's the first time in over 2 years that I've just seen him. And he sneaked in behind me into the interview studio. So we might as well put him on camera and have a little chat with him. So Georgia, who is in the studio now?
Hello, Sean. Hello, everyone. I am here with Lindsay Clanfield. Thank you, Lindsay, for coming.
Thank you for having me. Hi.
I'm really excited to see you in person.
Okay.
I know your online work, and I've seen you in sessions, in conferences. I'm so excited to interview you today.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Very nice to be here.
So can you tell our audience then about your ELT journey?
So I started I'm from Canada, and I started as an English language teacher. My mother is an English language teacher. My father's a French language teacher, so it was in the family. language teaching. Then I got my first sort of real job teaching in Mexico at a university in Mexico, and I lived there for some years before moving to Europe, continuing my training, getting other certificates, diplomas, things like that, and moved into teacher training, and then got my first opportunity to do some writing for a website, One Stop English, back 20 years ago, and then started writing books, continued teacher training. Then I started doing all kinds of, when blogging was happening, I started doing blogging. I now do podcasting, writing for apps, and books and more books. And I still do some teaching and lots of teacher training. So that's my career. 23 years, I don't know. Coming up to like a life sentence in ELT. So
a life sentence. This is the first time I'm
25 years is a life sentence in Canada. So there it is.
There it is. I like how you described your ELT journey, and through your journey, we started hearing more modern ideas, like, for example, from teacher to teacher trainer to writing books. Now it's then it was a podcast, now apps. So it seems like you're modernizing your journey.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think I grew up in ELT at the same time that all these new things were happening. So I remember when we all first started, lots of people in ELT started doing blogging, and there was the ELT blogosphere. Then there was like Twitter became a thing, and there was lots of people doing Twitter, and then it was like micro blogging, and then now there's podcasting, doing video stuff. And so as these things have come, I guess I've just been interested in the different possibilities that they've afforded me, and I've really enjoyed exploring it. It's made our career sort of become multifaceted, and you can meet lots of different people that way online. So it's been a pleasure.
It's really interesting because what I want to ask you is this: so what helps you get inspired? So when you see this shiny new thing, like, for example, let's say a podcast, or an app. What inspires you to connect this to the ELT world?
Well, usually it'll be because I will have seen other creative people or interesting things happening there. So I think any of us who have done podcasting probably listen to a lot of podcasts. Anybody who was getting into blogging had probably started reading lots of blogs before, like that. Social media is a different thing because that was not necessarily an inspiration, but these other ones where you can figure out ways of creating content, and then combination of being lucky, of meeting the right people at places like IATEFL opens new doors. So things like the apps and working on apps and different websites like that have been through coming to conferences like IATEFL, giving a talk, and then meeting somebody who says, oh, I'm actually working with this other organization. We're looking for language teaching experts and so on. So you start branching out and seeing what else is out there. And so inspiration is usually from other people, not in ELT, doing stuff that I like, and then me seeing how that can work in ELT. Because I think an advantage of ELT is it is so flexible. So you can, we're teaching language, so you can put a lot of things into that, whether it's critical thinking, whether it's CLIL, whether it's, wellness, whether it's whatever. There've been so many things over the years just that I've been in ELT, seeing how people will adapt things and put them into as part of language teaching. And I don't know if that can happen so much in other subject areas. I don't know if at maths conferences they're able to say, oh, I'm able to do this, this, and the other. I'm sure they can use the things, but there's something about teaching language, it could be English or any other language, where you can bring in lots of other interests.
It is interesting because language is developing and it grows as people grow, and the younger generations, the younger the language becomes. So it's like a rebirth, isn't it?
And I think one of the bits of wisdom I heard at an IATEFL talk by, I think it was Mario Winvalucri many years ago, said, language is a how, it's not a what. So the what is up to us. We decide what the what is, but language is a how. It's like, it's a skill of doing things. And then what we put in it, the content of that, is up to us and as teachers and learners.
Definitely. Now, we've mentioned apps, but is there anything new
that you guess will be a buzzword in the ELT world in the future?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, in terms of technology, I think every technology that comes out wants to be the new buzzword, and you always hear about the new things. So, and some of them sound really silly and they never really get off the ground. So for example, when drones were really big, people were saying, well, maybe drones will be in education. I don't really see that. There's been talk off and on for virtual reality. I imagine that will come back again as a thing. If the metaverse becomes a thing, people will start talking about that again. Some of us who've been around for a while will remember when Second Life was the thing that people were talking about, opening different opportunities. So I don't know. I also get the feeling that there will be cycles. So things will go out and then they'll come back in again. So maybe all of a sudden blogs in a different way will come back in a different thing. There'll be a new blog. So I get the feeling that the longer I've been in this, the more I see that some things just kind of come around and go away, then come back again under new guise and things like that. This is especially true with technology, which many apps, websites, programs, any automation of this has brought back the kind of language exercises that we were doing in language labs. Not me, but people were doing language labs in the 1970s and 80s. They've just sort of been modernized. So I don't know. I wouldn't be able to say what one thing might be coming, but it might be something that, if we've been around for a while, we had seen before. And some people will be saying, this is brand new. And then those of us who are older will be saying, well, we do remember seeing this around 15 years ago, and it's just kind of come back again. So yes. We'll see.
Now, going back to IATEFL, you did a presentation.
Yes.
What was it about?
My presentation was this morning. It was called Lessons from the Living Room, about live online teaching. In fact, I was to do this presentation with Jill Hadfield, who's a co-writer of mine, but she couldn't come. She was still in New Zealand and couldn't make it over. But both of us had been experimenting with different kinds of activities on live online teaching with video conference platforms. Something that I'd also spoken at length about with my colleague who introduced us, Sean. He and I did a podcast for much of the pandemic called Who's Zooming Who, where we were talking about different aspects of teaching with Zoom and our journey with that. So this was a talk based on some of those other things that I'd written with Jill, and the shared experience that all of us had of teaching, not in a classroom, but from our living room, from our kitchen table, from our son's room, from the closet, wherever the Wi-Fi connection was best, and we were able to have a bit of peace and quiet to teach our class while everything else was happening in the house.
Absolutely. Can you give, for the people who couldn't come to IATEFL, can you give us a taste of an activity that you've presented today?
Okay, so one of the things that we found, Jill and I, because Jill writes a lot about creativity, she said an interesting thing that had happened was that having this Zoom technology and everything curiously provided many constraints. So you can't stand up and walk around. You can use breakout rooms, but it can be a bit tricky. It's not as easy to just say work in pairs. You can't do mingling and stuff like that. But yet within those constraints, you can be creative. And so one activity that I remember doing was I never thought you could do, for example, a running dictation in a Zoom lesson.
How?
But you can. So for example, I would send one of the students by private message or before the class by email, a little text. And I say, you have to print it out or put it on your phone, but you can't be using your phone for the Zoom thing. So you have to have the phone separate from the computer or print it out. Then they had to turn on their camera and they had to put their phone or the piece of paper at the far end of the room, like on another table at the back. And so they'd be sitting in front of the camera and I'd say, okay, in the count of 3, you're going to do a running dictation. You'll have 3 minutes to dictate that. So they have to do like you do in the running dictation. They have to get out of their chair, go to the back of the room. They can't bring the phone or the paper back to it. They just read it. And then it's the same as the running dictation. So everyone else is laughing because they're kind of running back and forth and stuff like that. So we did manage to do that. So that was like sort of one example. Other examples were sort of more interesting, making our own information gaps for the breakout rooms. So everyone doing lots of little pictures. We did it with times. So like I write times on pieces of paper, 3:15, 5:30, 10 to 6, etc. And each student had to make the same amount of times on 10 pieces of paper. But then in the breakout rooms, they have to turn all the pieces of paper down, turn the camera on, and I have to say, Georgina, what time is it? And then you take a piece of paper and I take a piece of paper. You tell me the time and I say, oh, for me, it's whatever. If they match, we leave them face up. If they don't match, we turn them back down. We keep doing that as like make our own information gap in the break room. And that also meant that they had a task that they had to do. So as a teacher, I could come in and see the students. I'm like, show me your papers. Okay, good. Keep doing the activity and so on. So these were like little activities that I liked doing in class, and that with time and sort of thinking a little bit, you could adapt them for the online classroom.
You know what I loved about these two activities that you've mentioned? They're so simple, but very effective for our students.
Yeah. Well, what I was looking at is, and again, when I was doing this with Sean in our Who's Zooming Who podcast, we weren't necessarily looking at completely brand new activities. In fact, I remember Sean talking about how just something as simple as a picture dictation suddenly became like really interesting, doing it on screen and then showing the picture to the camera and stuff, because everyone would lean forward and so these are like our tried and true favorite activities that you can in fact transport into the online scenario, which for many teachers wasn't ideal. And I totally get that. I don't think now that anyone is going to say it's so much better to just do everything on Zoom and not have face-to-face. I think even this conference proves we all like being back together. But the tendency at the beginning was for people just to do online face-to-face as like talking at the camera, you know, just lecturing and giving the class. And you can do other things. So
wonderful. Now, before we go, Lindsay, I want to give you a challenge. Can I?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I want you to describe IATEFL in 3 words.
Okay. Work, learn, play.
Oh, lovely.
Work, learn, play. And it's kind of the blend. After a while, they all kind of blend together, and you're not sure, is this work? Am I working now? Am I learning? Am I playing?
Well, thank you very much, Lindsay. It was lovely to talk to you.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lizzie. I'm just really noticing that somebody said in the Facebook comments that the
online teaching, which we sometimes wonder if it couldn't be called live online teaching, because we all have been doing that. We've just been living online teaching, and it's good to get back into the classroom.
Oh, no, sorry, I all the mics had muted themselves. That's really bad. So what we were saying what I was saying there was, Lindsay, could you just say your book title for me again?
Live online teaching.
Thank you very much. What I was saying, Hannah, was, and I'll take Lindsay out so they can come and come out of it now, was that Lindsay had gone all the way. Sometimes technology goes a bit wrong, Hannah, in that case, but thank you. You were there to tell me that all the mics are muted. So what I was saying was, if you're interested in what Lindsay was saying about technology, of course, in Liverpool, he did do the plenary, and that is probably still online for people to see. Also, I was talking about the fact he hadn't mentioned it took him a while to mention the podcast that we do. But if you actually want to find Who's Zooming Who, and I will, and I'll probably get into trouble for it, you'll need to go to Spotify or Apple for TEFL Commute, and you'll find the podcast that we do there. But thank you very much. It's a flying visit from Lindsay, as it always is. If you know the podcast, you'll know that he only ever gives us 45 minutes of his time, and this is true here at IATEFL. But I'm looking forward to a proper catch-up in a couple of weeks. Thanks very much, Lindsay. And we are, it's like a who's who in the studio today. People keep going, that's Tanya Patterson behind me. If you don't know, she's the voice editor, and she'll be on in a minute. And then I think we round off the show. I think Jeremy's outside with his guitar already. So hang around. There's probably about 20 minutes left of this today's show. We are live from the ICC in Belfast. This is day 3 of IATEFL, coming towards the end of day 3 of IATEFL, in fact. And let's put a quick piece of video on to allow us to change over to a new speaker. and then we'll be back in a moment. I'll tell you what, let's revisit the bingo, because tomorrow we'll be talking to Fiona and we'll find out how bingo is doing. So let's have a look at the IATEFL bingo that we've been running throughout conference.
Hi, I'm Fiona, and I'd like to introduce you to the IATEFL Belfast Brilliant Bingo Board, the I and 4 Bs. It's been crowdsourced for you, and as you can see, it contains lots of words and phrases that you might hear while you're at the conference in session or while you're watching online. You might like to use it whole, or divide it into sections. You could divide it into a section for each day that you're at or following the conference. And then as you hear the words in the section or on the whole board, you cross them off. You could also, before you start using it, circle all the words you think are most likely to hear with one colour for 1 point, and all the words that are less likely with another colour for 2 points. And then at the end of the conference, add up your points. And you can let me know on Friday on Facebook Live.
Indeed. So we will be talking to Fiona tomorrow in the Facebook Live show to see how the bingo card is going. We think in the studio that the winning word for us at the moment is sustainability, or perhaps resilience. No, reflection is also on our list. So the interviews keep on coming. We are, as I said, we've got about 2 interviews left. We've got 20 minutes left of today's show. So we're going to go straight back over to Nikki, who is sat with Tanya. So Nikki, over to you.
Yeah, welcome back in the studio again. I'm very happy to be sitting here with Tanya Patterson. Tanya, hello. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Hi, Nikki. Thank you for inviting me.
You're more than welcome. Tanya, for anyone who doesn't know and who hasn't met you yet, can you tell us about your journey in ELT?
Well, it's been a long one. I've been in ELT for a very long time, really since I graduated university. I came out of university with a degree in linguistics and an MA in something similar. My first journey into ELT was teaching in Asia. I taught kids, I taught general EFL to adults, and I got into materials writing fairly early on when I was in South Korea. I co-authored a couple of series of books. Came back to Canada after about 5 years. I got into EAP. I was teaching at a college in Western Canada. Little bit of time in Toronto. And then I spent 12 years as EAP instructor and curriculum coordinator at a Canadian university. And while I was there, I was writing a ton of EAP materials. I had an idea for a book, and one thing led to another. I went freelance about 10 years ago, and now I divide my time between EAP materials writing, editing. I'm editor of IATEFL's Voices magazine. Before that, I was editor of conference selections for 10 years. And I find my way back into the classroom once in a while. I haven't done that for a long time, obviously because of COVID, although I did have one short experience teaching online in the summer of 2020. So.
And how did that go? Was that language or was that methodology?
Yeah, I was teaching. It was pre-sessional EAP at the University of Warwick in the UK. And I mean, it's not the ideal way to teach, but we made it work. So
yeah, I think everyone can probably relate to this.
I think so, yes. I think there's all kinds of stories out there about how I made the transition to online teaching. And we did it.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Right.
Okay, and so you're very busy, obviously, in your life at work outside of this conference, and you've been very busy in this conference as well.
I have. I mean, this conference has been a shock for me because for 2.5 years I haven't been to anything like this. And I mean, I've been coming to IATEFL for years, and it's just, it's really interesting to come back and dive back into it. I've had 3 presentations this week. 2 of them I've done, and the final one is tomorrow. So I'm here wearing several hats. I spoke in the MORSIG, or Materials Writing PCE, pre-conference event, about, it's kind of a depressing topic actually. It was materials writing about traumatic subjects. So if you're a classroom teacher, if you're writing for your own classes, if you've got something traumatic happening in your part of the world and you want to write materials about it, what are some guidelines to follow to do that? That was my first talk. The second one that I just did earlier today was a promotional talk for National Geographic. And I've just published, it's part of a series called Reflect. It's an EAP series, 12 books in total from A1 all the way up to C1. And I wrote the C1 reading and writing book. So I did a talk on that today. And then tomorrow morning, if anybody out there is in Belfast and would like to come, I'm giving a how-to talk at 8:15 on how to write for Voices magazine. And I'm always looking for good articles from all parts of the world on any aspect of ELT. I would love to hear from you if you're interested in writing.
Okay,
so that's,
that was a lot of information. I've got questions, if I can,
okay,
Tanya.
Go for it.
So let's start at the beginning. So
Okay.
with pre-conference events
Yep.
and materials writing, what advice would you give to any teachers out there who are thinking, I would like to address a few issues, but
Yep.
I'm not sure how to go about this?
In terms of content?
Yes, in terms of content.
Yeah, the talk that I gave in the MORSIG PCE it's about a fairly traumatic period in Canadian history where Indigenous kids were taken away from their families and separated, sort of put in residential schools, and all kinds of horrible things happened. And I had a writing project. I was writing materials for a college in Canada, and they wanted this subject to be included. And I had to really think about how I was going to do that, how I was going to approach this very traumatic subject sensitively and accurately, but still keeping in mind that essentially I'm writing EAP materials. So I actually gave 10 guidelines on how to do it in terms of thinking about your purpose, using the voices of the people involved as much as possible, not trying to speak on behalf of a people that you don't necessarily belong to, as I didn't. It's actually, there's actually an article on the same subject that I wrote for Voices. It's in the November 2021 issue of Voices. If anybody wants to log into the website and find that, there's a lot more detail there.
Okay, Tanya, thank you. I think that, probably many people would be very interested in finding out how to go about this. Next question I have is regarding your talk on EAP. Certainly finding materials content-wise that challenge and interest and engage and motivate higher level learners is quite difficult. Again, how do you go about this? Where do you start if you find yourself thinking, no?
Well, this is why I love writing for National Geographic, because you can take the most interesting subject from an interesting part of the world and create material about it. And my starting points, I mean, when I got the brief to write this book, we knew there was going to be a unit on business and a unit on science and a unit on engineering and so on. And where I started was with the National Geographic magazine and their videos, to see what's already been done in other branches of National Geographic and what I could pull from. And I came across some amazing stories that I'd never heard about before. For example, I have one unit in the book, and this is C1 reading writing. It's about working in groups or teamwork. And I found a story in one of the National Geographic magazines about the Cambodian women's wheelchair basketball team and how they came together as a team and the challenges they faced and the the difficulties they went through and how they eventually started competing internationally and had, I mean, not necessarily success in terms of winning anything, because they didn't, but just this, what they got out of being part of this team. And I tied it all into like business theory about how teams come together, and which is what students are going to be learning about when they are post-EAP, when they go into university. So.
Okay, and so where can people who are potentially interested in this find that material?
If they go to the National Geographic website, the series title is Reflect. Sean just said that reflection is one of the big buzzwords right now, and we do have this series. It's Reflect, it's EAP, it's brand new. And just Google Reflect National Geographic, and the information is on the website.
Okay, Tanya, thank you. And my final question, you mentioned voices.
Yes.
For anyone who's not familiar with voices, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, Voices is IATEFL's magazine. It comes out every 2 months. And it's a collection of articles, not so much academic articles. It's not a journal. It's very practically oriented. It's things that people might be doing in their classrooms that they want to write about. We've had a lot recently about adapting to online teaching and how people did that. There's also book reviews in there. There's contributions from the various SIGs about what they've been up to. There's an associates page where IATEFL's associates around the world can showcase what they've been doing. But as I said, I'm always looking for articles, and it's a great place for maybe a first-time writer, or if you don't have a lot of experience writing for publication, get in touch. We'll work together if you just want to bounce some ideas around or talk about what might work. I would love to hear from you, and you can reach me at editor@iatefl.org, or
I would really encourage people to go for it, because if you're not familiar with it, it's a publication that's very accessible. It's not like a heavily academic journal.
It isn't. It's not academic at all. The articles are, most of them are under 2 pages, which is about 1,600 words. And then once you start adding pictures in there, it's you could have a nice article of 1,000 or 1,200 words with a few images, and I think people like to know what's going on in other contexts. I know I learn a lot from editing this.
Well, yeah, this is the thing, that it's not only as a teacher, it's great to dip into for practical ideas and, ideas and perspectives that you might not have in your own context. But also, if you were thinking of writing, I mean, I can't, obviously, I'm not the editor of the journal, but I just find that sometimes don't underestimate what you're doing and what you're thinking, because it will be new potentially and interesting to people in other contexts. So,
yeah, I mean, for example, I just published an article by a teacher in Cuba, and fairly new to the teaching profession and didn't have a lot of experience in writing, but he was writing about how he used WhatsApp to teach with in a low resource context during the pandemic, when he couldn't count on students having their own laptops, for example, but everybody had a phone. So how did he use WhatsApp to get his teaching across?
Well, absolutely, this is fascinating. And we had Nikki Hockley earlier talking about exactly the same thing.
Okay,
so it's great that people are sharing through this, the medium of voices. So yes, don't be afraid, go for it.
Absolutely, yes.
Is the way forward. Tanya, one final tiny question. Yes. If I could ask you to describe your IATEFL experience in one word, I'm not going to make you do 3. What would you say?
My IATEFL experience, well, I've been involved in IATEFL for a long time.
One word.
I think it has to be community. And I'm sure you've heard that before, but I mean, I live in a fairly small town in Canada. I don't have a big ELT community where I live. I mean, for me, the highlight of my year for quite a long time now has been coming here and meeting fellow ELT professionals from all over the world. And I think this week has been incredible. It's like, hi, how are you? It's so good to see you. And there really is that sense of we all belong together here.
Absolutely. So, and thank you very much. It's been lovely having you and chatting to you.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Tanya. All the best.
And before you go, because I know you can't see the comments on Facebook,
okay.
Tanya, Catherine Billsbury is giving you much love.
Oh, thank you, Catherine.
She says you're brilliant and supportive and very kind. So, that's very sweet of her, isn't it? And Catherine's a very nice person as well. So thank you very much, Tanya. I'll take you out the stream. We are almost at the end of today's show. As with all our shows, we try and also focus on what is happening in the social program, the bits that happen after the academic program has finished today. So coming up as our final guest, after one more piece of video, we'll be talking to Jeremy Harmer and Judy Wong, who are the people that run the Music and Song Night. So we'll be talking to them in just a couple of minutes.
Hi, this is Dalia Saleh, a teacher of English at the Gaza Strip from Palestine. Actually, this is my first time to come to this conference. It's like a very interesting international event. I saw many people from different countries who are specialized in different sectors, and it was like a great opportunity to network with them and just talk to them and attend so different sessions with different themes and topics. Yeah, I wish to attend another time and yeah, to see you. Bye.
Hi, my name's Sarah. I'm a first-time IATEFL with the Hands Up Project. It's a UK-based charity working in Palestine. My takeaway from today is that I never failed to be amazed by how resourceful and creative and resilient teachers are in all kinds of contexts from around the world.
So hello, I am Tatiana Striglu. I am from Lemon Publications. So the first day here in Belfast was perfect. It is one more very good, very well organized event, IATEFL event. So I cannot wait to see you again tomorrow, Thursday, and on Friday. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm Jo. I'm from London, and day one has been great. It's been a really good range of talks. The exhibition hall is lovely and friendly, and yeah, loads of people. It's really nice to see lots of people back and talking about TEFL again.
So this we'll have to see how this goes. Last year, as people will know, that I helped put together the online conference and helped run that. I still joke that I have in the online conference that IATEFL ran last year. We had over 500 rooms that ran, and there was only one room that I couldn't get right, and it was the music room, which as Jeremy's now laughing because he said was just trying to actually do music over Zoom didn't work very well, over hopping didn't work very well. So I was determined this year that now we're back face to face is to try and give them a platform where they could represent the Music and Song Night better. So tonight's social event at IATEFL is the Music and Song Night, and that's it's a bit like the storytelling of our event last night, as I'm sure Judy and Jeremy will say. It's an open event, but let's find out more. And we've got both Nikki and Georgia who are probably having a bit of a fan thing here. So. Just in terms of the image, because I didn't see it, but that microphone is blocking Judy a little bit. Yeah, sorry, we couldn't quite tell. That's a little bit. That's better. I can see that. Yeah. Oh no. Now the microphone's in their forehead. Hello, folks. So this is what's happening. This happens over this side of the studio. Yeah. So it was very difficult to try and accomplish that in a couple of minutes. Hopefully we've got it sorted. We can see that now. Jeremy's trying very hard to get the microphone sorted. This is what backstage looks like. While Jeremy's putting the microphone back together. See, you put the music and song in the room and things go wrong. So if anybody's ever wondered how a microphone works, it gets wound up and put in there. So while they're still, let me mute their mic while they're still doing that microphone, let me remind you that this is day 3 of IATEFL, and the last day tomorrow is not a full day in terms of the program. So watch out for different timings. As ever, the plenaries will be live streamed. The first plenary is at 9 a.m. in the morning. The live stream will go up for that. So we will have the live stream plenary at 9 a.m. in the morning. We will then, let me just take it off camera while I worry about it. So we've got the plenary at 9 o'clock in the morning. We will then have a shortened live show at 12:30. So this is UK time, of course. We'll have a shortened live show at lunchtime between 12:30 and 1:30, which means we'll be off air in time for the second plenary of the day, the closing plenary of IATEFL, which is going to be a panel discussion looking at sustainability and those issues of the environment. I think the microphone might be ready. It's not a debate as such. There is a debater conference, the ELTJ debate, which is probably taking place around now. Nikki Hockley was in the studio earlier talking about that, where they're going to be talking about effective online teaching, whether it is effective or not. But that isn't part of that. The closing plenary is a discussion more than a debate. I think there are 3 people in a panel, and they'll be talking and taking questions from the floor and from the room. So 9 o'clock, the first plenary. The second plenary, the second plenary at 2:15. Conference finishes at 3:15, and then sandwiched between the middle, we'll have a live show where we will start to reflect, because that is our buzzword, on IATEFL 2022, and look forward to IATEFL 2023. Right, microphone's ready. All right, let's go over to them then.
Hello, everyone watching from home. So Nikki and I couldn't decide who's going to do the interview.
Both wanted it, yeah, absolutely.
We both wanted it, so why not? So we have got with us, Nikki, who do we have with us?
We have Jeremy Harmer and Judy Wong.
Lovely, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
We are very excited about the music night. And can I say, like in 2019, in Liverpool, in our last face-to-face conference, I came to the music night. And I cried a little bit because it was so moving, so heartfelt. And then the person next to me asked me, "Are you okay?" And I said, "It's beautiful." It was so beautiful.
It was magic, wasn't it? It was a lovely, lovely evening. And I've been doing these for quite a few years now. And the beauty of them is you never know who's coming and you never know what you're going to get. So I've got 2 little stories to show you. And this, after all, there are people here from all over the world and they're not quite sure what to do with their evenings anyway. And so you get together and you have this wonderful togetherness and everyone is complete. It's just a shared, wonderful, cuddly, warm, sort of human family feeling with music on top. Both of us here are kind of paid up idiots about music. We love it and stuff like that. I think the first one I was ever involved with, a woman from Estonia came along. I hope she's not listening, so maybe it was another country. And she said, could she sing? Yes. And she sang a Estonian folk song, and she had a perfectly nice voice, but it wasn't a sort of trained voice or anything, so it wasn't enormously, but she reduced everyone to tears. The beauty of this song, unaccompanied, just, it was magic. And in the same evening, we had some guy who played, I've forgotten his name, and if you're watching, I'm really, really sorry, I apologize, but we had a guy playing beautifully trained, playing the classical Japanese flute, which is, that's not just picking up a guitar, that's the real deal. And everything in between. And it was lovely, and everybody loves it. And as the years have gone past, we keep doing it. We keep saying, this year again? Well, yes, because if it works like it did in Liverpool, people just feel happy. And yes, they do cry, but it's crying in a good way. And I'll stop talking in a minute, but what happened in Liverpool, my favorite moment in Liverpool is, I can't remember, I do know who was singing, but my brain's gone dead because conference brain gone wrong. Somebody was singing, and from the voice, from the audience came this female voice doing a harmony vocal above what was singing of real beauty. Turned out it was a woman from Holland, and who then later she played there was a keyboard and she played something which is really nice. But it's one of those kind of moments that just sends shivers down your spine because it was unexpected and beautiful. And in the middle of that, we had some people who just do music all the time, like us, and some people who don't do much music and all that kind of thing. It's just, I don't know what tonight will be like. The venue, yeah, you know, it's not perfect, but and I don't really know who's going to be there. And we've got a keyboard, but we don't really know if it's going to be any good. And we haven't got really as many guitars as we'd like.
Borrowing a lot of guitars.
What?
We're sharing a lot of guitars.
All sorts of things like that. And there are one or two singers who haven't actually managed to rehearse with anybody who might accompany them. So the possibility for complete and utter disaster is very high, but it won't matter.
Way to sell it.
What do you say?
Way to sell it.
Yeah, but no, but
It's music. Music is a universal language, and
Exactly.
that's one of the greatest things about our music night is that we're bringing all of our colleagues and our friends and from all around the globe, and they can all share in this wonderful thing called music with equal love. I mean, nobody has to be perfect. Nobody has to be the best of the best. They're all with music, and that's a universal language. It's a
The feed just went on the computer. Yeah, I'm going to bring it back in a second. We just lost the feed on the computer. They were streaming it. Just bear with me 1 second, and I'll try and put it back in. See, the music people come and come in and with it. I'm on another computer, so I look a little bit weird, and I'll come back to you in 1 second as I find the room. It gives Jeremy time to get the guitar tuned up. How weird. It's not happened for the whole show. We do apologize. These things happen. On my microphone, you can probably hear Jeremy twanging away with it. We will fix it in a moment. Here they're coming back now. Sorry about that. So you're back in the stream.
Hello. Oh, we're back. Yeah, brilliant. Lovely.
Nikki, you have got a question.
I did. I wanted to ask. So the music night. Can anyone just turn up from the conference and perform if they want to?
Yes, if they want to. The only restriction is we have a certain amount of time. So will you get your spot? It depends when you turn up. There are people who've sort of sent in suggestions of playing virtually a whole concert program.
Right.
It ain't going to happen because this is and the story I told you about the singer all those years ago is precisely what the evening is all about. On that night, we had some really good singers, guitarists, performers, but she's the person I remember, just because it moved everyone to tears.
I remember the song was "Isn't She Lovely?"
How was it?
Yeah.
Oh, was it Chaz and Adrian playing? I think it was.
I
Yes.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she just started singing harmony.
And it was
everyone
nice. Just
nice.
kind of went.
It was completely unplanned.
Yes, I
She
mean,
was sitting in the audience and she was getting so excited about the song. She just started singing. So we were like, that's good. And she stopped at first and we said, no.
Anyway, what I thought I'd do, and then I'll shut up and Judy can talk. I'm going to sing you a little bit of a song. Is that right?
Absolutely.
So this is how I'm going to start the evening. Come in here, you're welcome. Sit yourselves down. We'll keep you safe from danger. You can call this place your home. Because when we sing together, you will never be alone. Yes, when we sing together, you will never be alone. When you've landed in a country where you really want to be, and you're standing in the passport line, and you're thinking of the arms that are waiting to enfold you, and you hope they'll let you in this time. And no one's ever threatened me or tried to do me harm from the point of a bayonet or gun. Never had to leave my home and everything I love to find another place, somewhere to run. But others, well, they travel because they have to. They've faced war and danger, fear and tyranny, and all they want is a place to live in safety as they cross the searing desert, restless sea. But me, hey, well, I've traveled because I want to. I've been here and there, and I've been taken all around. I'm lucky and I know it, and I thank my lucky stars as I reach another city, place or town. So if someone is trying to put up walls, it's our job to tear them down. Come in here, you're welcome. Sit yourselves down. We'll keep you safe from danger. You can call this place your home. 'Cause when we sing together, you will never be alone. Yes, when we sing together, we will never be alone. For all of our history, mankind has made the journey to travel to where we think we ought to be. For our future, our food to eat, our children's possibilities, the dream of wanting to be free. So don't listen to the voices of ignorance and greed, the ones who try and keep incomers out. Our home is our welcome, because it makes the world a better place, and that's what it's all about. So if someone is trying to put up walls, it's our job to tear them down. Come in here, you're welcome. Sit yourselves down. We'll keep you safe from danger. You can call this place your home. 'Cause when we sing together, you will never be alone. Yes, when we sing together, we will never be alone. There you are. And that's a sort of statement of ethos, as well as a song. And I expect, and this is a slightly short version.
Jeremy Harmer original.
And yeah, well, but hopefully we'll get everyone singing along with that this evening, and that's quite good fun. So that's what is going on this evening. And if you're watching this on the live stream, it's really lovely to see you and really pleased you're here. But why aren't you here? Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to say that. It just slipped out, you know.
Yes, we miss you.
Well, hopefully you've tempted them to come next year.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
I must say, if you are watching this and you think you might come next year, Harrogate, beautiful, lovely place. It's such a gorgeous venue, and it's going to be even better than this beautiful conference. And by the way, can I just say before Judy speaks, I think that the committee and the trustees and everyone who works for IATEFL deserves massive credit for getting the ship back on sea, for getting the thing back on the road. We've lived a really difficult time. It's had, and you can't forget, and we must never forget that the families who've suffered the most terrible loss of fathers and mothers and grandfathers and grandmothers and brothers and sisters and uncles and children. It's just been awful. And I don't think, and I'm saying this for anyone who's watching it, we should ever forget this. Hopefully the years go on getting better. In this country alone, it looks like we've lost about 35% of practitioners of English language teaching and schools and things like that. They've gone because lockdown was unsustainable and stuff like that. And IATEFL had to live through that and work out how on earth to survive. And they got this thing up and running again, and here we are. And it seemed, I don't know whether you agree or whether Sean agrees, but it's like a transitional event which gets us right back onto the high ground and the what's it called? The sunlit uplands, I think
like
you
a
can
breath
call
of
it.
fresh air.
Yeah, and the fresh air and stuff. And I
Yes.
just want to congratulate IATEFL for being bloody wonderful. Right. What do you want to say, Judy?
I don't know. Jeremy does all the talking here, you know. That's why we have Jeremy, right?
But why don't you tell everyone where you're from? And
Oh, where am I from? Here, there, and every. I'm a New Yorker. Everybody goes, "What are you?" I said, "I'm a New Yorker." They're like, "No, but aren't you Chinese or something?" I said, "No, I'm a New Yorker." That's what I am. I'm a multi-generation New Yorker. So to say I'm anything else is sort of silly. But yes, I'm a New Yorker. I grew up in show business. I keep trying to transition out of show business, but other people have other ideas, like Jeremy. I normally sing show tunes and pop tunes because that's what I grew up singing. But during the lockdown, because I didn't have a pianist for my accompanist for when I do sing, and my husband, you'll see him tonight if you are there live, if you come. So I know those of you who are on Facebook all the time and you're here, you know to come. And we usually have standing room only, so make sure you get here early. So my husband is going to actually play with me. He usually is ditching it, but over the lockdown, because I didn't have a pianist, I told him, I said, well, that's it. You're the only one here, so you have to be my accompanist. And he was like, fine, then you have to learn my style music. Now, my husband's a rock and roll guitarist and a blues and jazz guitarist. So I was like, well, sure, why not? I mean, I am a singer. Way back 100 years ago, I used to sing with swing bands and stuff. So I said, yeah, I could, whatever you want me to learn, I'll learn. I now have 2 gigantic loose leaf binders worth of music that he's made me learn over the last 2.5 years. So yes, he is coming and he's here and he will be playing with me later. And you know, I'm usually always here because Jeremy calls me up and says, I'm doing this music night. You are here, right? And I went, I guess so. But it's the best time. It's really the best time.
Well, that's more complicated. I think I bet. How did we start? It's to do with the new school.
It was at the new school.
And
I went back to school, as our current president knows, Gabrielle. I went back to school very, 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 very late in life.
You're only in the first stages, Judy. Don't be silly.
I know that's true, right? I'm only 25. I told my kids I'm 25, so they can't call me mom anymore. But yeah, I met Gabrielle because I had enrolled in the new school to finally get my degrees, as I was kicking my children out to get their degrees. And
by the way, we should say the new school is a university.
New School University in New York City. And yeah, I met Gabrielle because I became the first bachelor master's option student that he had. And he was the head of the department, the MAT Soul department at the time. And then I met Jeremy because Jeremy showed up for the summer thing and he did this Dickens thing. And after he did this Dickens thing, I walked over to him and I said, you're really an actor, aren't you? And he went, I said, I can nail an actor a mile away. Don't give me that. So that's how we became friends. Yes.
but yes, I mean, for 12 years, I taught, we co-taught with my colleague and great friend, Carol Leatherby, who's here yesterday and I think maybe back tomorrow, I'm not sure, online for the new school on the MAT Soul. But of course, that gives me no credit in the current online world because it was asynchronous. It was, we used black canvas and then Blackboard, which are kind of Moodle-like platforms. And yeah, they had their own technical issues and problems, but we didn't do any synchronous kind of teaching like we do now.
Well, yeah. I mean, there was in-person teaching,
Yeah.
Very little. But I mean, I mean, I probably am one of the only students who actually did 90% of mine in person, because that's why I did it. It was there, it was in New York, and I could do it during the day.
But one glorious summer, I got to go there for 4 weeks.
That was nice.
New York in July is so hot. But I did once. I had a bike and cycled around Central Park one afternoon, my last afternoon, and I was just wearing a t-shirt. But when I got back, I just had to wring it out because it was so hot.
It was hot.
Anyway,
but yes, that's how we met. We met through the New School University.
But I think we might want to tell another little story, which is as you've just heard, 50% of me is a musician, sort of actor-y musician person, and 50% of me is a long career in English language teaching and writing about English language teaching methodology. So I was away in Latin America for about 2.5 months without any music. And then I came home. I bought my ticket forward because I was expecting the birth of a granddaughter, and suddenly people started saying Lufthansa's grounded all their aeroplanes, this COVID thing. So I got back in time. But the one thing that gave me pleasure was that I arrived on that about 5 or 6 days after I arrived, I was going to a music session, and sort of near Cambridge with people who Judy now knows. And I was so looking forward to it because I hadn't actually been in live music. I hadn't been to any orchestra practice. I play in orchestras as well, for 2.5 months. So excited. And on the 16th, I was sitting having breakfast. This is 2020. And Brian, this guy, he messages and he said, lockdown's coming, it's cancelled. And I sat there, just going, ooh, and then about half an hour later, I messaged him back, said, I've used Zoom for editorial meetings. Shall we give that a try? And we did. And a few folk musicians came along, some of them really technologically quite incompetent, I'd have to say. And tomorrow night, we'll be doing our 194th session. Yes. And the beauty of it is, and the reason we haven't stopped it, because we're going back to live music, live gigs. I've got a big orchestral concert which I'm playing in on Saturday, that kind of thing. The reason we haven't stopped it is the beautiful thing that has happened is that we have singers from all over the UK, some of whom I've never come across before, singers from all over the States, from Switzerland, from everywhere. And I don't want to go.
Japan, we had someone coming.
Oh,
we have someone coming in the middle of the night from Japan.
A Japanese harpist of exquisite talent, and so on and so forth. And we've had people from Australia and things.
Musicians of every shape, size, and instrument joins us.
And so and so Judy turned up as well. So that's how she's there. And I keep saying, oh, come on, we've all gone back to real life, but no one wants to stop it. And we've got this community of musicians. I say, Pete, who I would one of our number, may he rest in peace, died the other day, and it was like a family death. It was quite extraordinary. Everyone was very moved. Anyway, so that's so, and I'm just really lucky because I come to IATEFL and just for a little bit I get to marry the two halves of my life, which is English language teaching methodology and music.
Yeah, like you and me, both of us.
Yeah, there we are. Yeah.
We get to have our cake and eat it too. We get to be our love of English and teaching, and our love of our music. And tonight's going to be an extraordinary night because not only was Lockdown Folk born 2.5 years ago.
That's what I was talking
that's
about.
That's what it became. It's called Lockdown Folk. But it was born 2.5 years ago. But tonight, we not only have Jeremy and me together again, but we have another friend from Lockdown Folk, who's also a teacher, Bill Harris and Jenny Johnson, and Charles Goodger is coming too. Yeah.
And the most recent addition to Lockdown Folk is also coming, and she's from Argentina, called Tamara.
Tammy's coming.
So it's all.
It's everything crosses. I said music is the universal language. It's the bridge to everything. And if people just, that's.
What about you guys?
Oh, we are coming.
Yeah, yes, but basically you'll be killed if you don't, obviously. But remind me about where you're from and what are you doing here, sort of thing.
What am I doing? I don't know. What am I doing here? Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's confusing. I'm based in the Czech Republic. I think you came over a couple of years ago to Brno, to one of the conferences there. Yeah, that's where I'm based. I work at a university and I'm in teacher education. So we're helping students who want to become secondary school teachers of English. So I work with them. And in terms of music, I can play the piano, but
we need a pianist, so we're gonna.
Oh, okay.
You just bought yourself a job.
Can I tell you a chief claim to fame is we played in the Rudolfinum in Prague.
Did you really?
We actually played Dvořák, which is that's pretty scary. I mean, it's like.
I mean, that's the creme de la creme. The Rudolfinum in Prague is just it's outstanding.
We played a concert there, the Cambridge Philharmonic, and that was just wow.
Because Jeremy plays lots of instruments.
Wow, because you have to.
And he's also very well trained.
What about you?
Oh, sorry, I was going to keep the microphone closer to you.
Yeah, listen, I'll just shout. What about you? What about you, George?
So I'm originally from Greece, but for the past 6 years, I've been living in Bournemouth, which feels a little bit closer to home with the beach and everything. Yeah. And I am the assistant director of studies at Kaplan International Languages, and we specialize in teacher training courses and exam preparation courses. So my job essentially is shouting at students who don't do their homework.
Do you know what? I think if I think about, if someone who isn't an ELT comes to me and says, so what do you do in English language teaching? I've never given that as an answer. I taught in very early in my career. I taught in Bournemouth for a few years in Eurocenter in Dean Park Road there. So Bournemouth was very much my stamping ground. But we are talking almost certainly before you were born. So that was that. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm up until recently, I was one of the adjuncts at Pace University, but we're not there anymore. So.
This is so exciting. Honestly, I cannot stop talking to these two. It's amazing.
Are you going to be performing together this evening?
No, because she's performing with her husband, as she was pointing out, is going to be her accompanist. I can't even say it. The person who plays with her.
The person who plays with me will be my husband.
He's
a guitarist.
That reminds me of the best line ever from a course book. I shouldn't really say this. If you're watching on the live stream and you're of sensitive disposition, please close your ears now. But way back in the old days, because if you look at me, I go way back to the old days. Way back in the old days, the best line that was ever written for a course book was in a course called Kernel 1, written by a great figure of English language teaching for actually annuals, years and years ago, called Robert O'Neill. And it was a very low-level beginner course, and it had a little illustration. And I don't know why, it just makes me laugh every time. And what it said was exactly the same grammatical construction as you just used. It said, the person in bed with her is her husband. And I don't know why that made me laugh so much. It's just, it's completely innocent, but there's just something really funny about that, So what were we talking about? I've not.
So Henry, my husband Henry, we call it his music name is Doc. He really is a doc, though. When I met him, he was playing in a rock and roll band, and I thought he was this young rock and roll musician. He thought I was a young person too.
They both have problem with their eyesight, to be honest.
Yes. If you notice, we wear glasses. But it turned out he was a senior citizen doctor. And I was a senior citizen teacher, so it worked.
Well, lovely.
But yes, look, IATEFL.
But yes, if you play piano, by the way, you've just been recruited.
Yes. Well,
and you can read music, right? Definitely are recruited.
Not well, but I can. Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine.
When Judy recruits you, you go. I just want to point that out. But I mean, we have lived such weird times, haven't we? You know, in her other life, as she was telling you, Judy's she sings in musicals and things like that. You know, and she lives just literally a block or two from Broadway in Manhattan. And she would always say on Zoom, you know, well, Broadway's still dark.
Yeah,
it's still closed. It's dark. It's like and
we were literally the last neighborhood to come out of the ghost world.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, the whole city, you know, started waking up, except my neighborhood, because Broadway was closed. And
but we're back to normal.
I was going to say, well,
and
it's slowly, it's a on again, off again kind of thing, because it's slowly waking up, so we can have shows. But it's really stressful because literally the performers don't know if they are performing that night until that night, because they have to get tested before they can go into the theater. And so literally anybody in the company at all tests out positive, the whole show goes down. So it's really hard. You know, we have a lot of the shows opening, a lot of shows closing. We have a lot of shows that on again, off again on a daily basis, which is why we have so many casts now for one show, because they rotate to find the ones that are not.
But the music night is on. And for the people who are watching from home, thank you very much for joining us. I can see that Sean is ready to go to the music night. Sean is ready to say thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
We expect you guys. I mean, really, it's a beautiful night. And it's probably
So as Judy continues to try and persuade and make sure that and Nikki go to music night, I just realised that the actual broadcast studio will stop in a moment. So it's probably a good time for us to stop. So thank you very much to Jeremy and Judy. I hope you enjoyed their talking. There's a lot of really nice comments about that conversation. And thank you for Jeremy for the song. And if you want to hear that song and join in with that song, if I understood correctly, then you need to go to Music Night tonight. And if you're not with us here in Belfast, then put it in your diary for April next year. And you can come and sing with Jeremy and Judy in Harrogate. That is the end of day 3's show. Thank you very much for joining us. Loads of people joining in, loads of comments. Lots of likes on Jeremy's song. Thank you very much for that. A reminder that tomorrow the plenary goes live at 9 o'clock in the morning on the Facebook page. You will see today's plenary. If you've not seen it, it's in the feed somewhere. Tonight, we will put out some more interviews that were recorded before the live show, and they'll go out so you can catch up with some other things like that. So plenary 9 o'clock in the morning. Live show tomorrow is 12:30 to 1:30 because the last day of IATEFL is shortened. And then the final plenary, the closing plenary, the discussion on sustainability and the environment starts at 2:15 with the conference closing at 3:15 tomorrow. So thank you very much for joining us. Have a good rest of the day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye for now.